was born into a family that was a church-going family, and a dad that was called into the ministry. I was a quiet kid, not very outspoken, not very crazy, but the one thing that I did learn was ministry from the start. I learned to listen for what God had for us, to what He wanted us to do, to hear His voice, to learn to pray, to learn to really seek the face of God for things, and that was instilled for me from early childhood, and it's still with me today. And so from 5 years old or so, I began to basically see ministry in a whole new light. I wanted to become involved in music probably at that small age of 5 years old. I had several cassette tapes that I would listen to that my parents bought me at different concerts and places, and I'd bring it home and play it in my little Fisher-Price tape player. And I would jump on the trampoline and imagine I was on a platform, you know, in front of all these people singing and basically releasing this that I knew that God had given me. Even as a child, I knew it. My new CD is titled Beautiful Design. And I hope that listeners, when they get this record and pop it into their CD player or at home, you know, in the car or wherever they listen to it, that they will walk away from that listening experience knowing that they can accomplish exactly what it is that God's called them to, and trust that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, just like the Scripture tells us in the book of Psalms, and believe that they are God's handiwork. And if they're His handiwork, then they could trust Him to do and open the doors and get them into the places and equip them to do the very things that God's called them to do. My musical influences growing up were quite interesting in a wide variety of people, from one of my all-time favorites, Sandy Patty, to other worship artists like Morris Chapman. Morris Chapman's music really shaped me from early childhood. I listened to those songs, and still to this day, as a matter of fact, still lead some of those songs in worship in my church and different places where I go out on the road. You know, used to I would get up and imagine that the people needed to automatically be there in God's presence, forgetting that they've walked through a lot of junk in the week before they came into that worship service. I finally started getting the picture. You know what? These people are carrying some serious baggage. There's a lot that's happened this week. Their cars have been broken down. They're walking through financial hardships. They're walking through a lot of things. And so people come into the house of God not always eager just to jump into His presence. And so for me, I had to learn that it was, okay, let's get everybody into the room. Let's shake off all that we brought in with us. Let's set all that baggage down, and let's begin to just ever so slightly press into the presence of God. And the more we did that, and the more we would push, then the more we would find Him, and the more that people's lives begin to be changed once we let go of all the junk that we carried in with us. You Found Me is a great song. We are on the set actually for that video shoot right now. When I received the phone call about the whole idea of this video shoot and what was going to be about shooting in this prison and all that, it immediately clicked with my spirit, because when I originally wrote the song, I wrote it with the idea in mind of being imprisoned, trapped in the middle of a storm, something that you know just have no way out of. And somehow God comes into the midst of all of that and He rescues us. He completely changes our life forever.
You were looking for me and ran to me when I called your name, and you found me. I'll never be the same. Completely. You changed my world that day when you found me.
We had a #1 single that snuck up on us at Christmas time. It's the bonus track on this new CD, and it's called For the First Time, and that was just completely amazing how that happened. I worked with Nathan Walters, that was formerly with Plus One, and immediately radio jumped on it, and instantly, just from out of the blue, we started charting. A couple of radio promoters actually said, I think this thing may hit #1. I was like, oh yeah, sure, okay. But then, next thing we know, it did. It hit #1. We were on 5 different charts. And we stayed on those charts for like 5 weeks, which was fantastic, and really that was a really big highlight for me. Story of Grace is an amazing song. This song is very dear to my heart because I wrote this song with a relative of mine, my cousin Amanda. She came to me several years back, brought me some lyrics that she had written out and said, look, I've come up with these lyrics and I would love for you to help me put this to music. And I said, okay. So we sat down and I began to look through this stuff, and I said, these lyrics they're amazing. What did this come from? I asked her. I said, where did these lyrics, what spawned all of this? And she said, well, this is my testimony. This is my story of grace. This is what God has brought me through. And so I began to take it, sat down, put it to music, and we loved the song. I mean, we played it at family get-togethers and things like that, but then somehow lost the song, misplaced it, and for years I looked for it and couldn't find it until a couple years ago, in March of 2009, I received a phone call one day that something was wrong with Amanda. And so I immediately began to get myself wrapped up from what I was doing and go back to my house. But before I even got back to my house, I received another phone call that she had passed away from a medically induced drug overdose. And that day, on my way back to the house, I'm praying, God, I would love to take this song and I would love to share it with our family, but I can't find it. I would love for you to help me find this song. I've looked time after time after time for it. And that day, I walked into my house and I said, there's a couple places I just want to look one more time. The first place I walked to, I lifted the lid on this thing, and miraculously, right there lays this song that I've looked for so many years. And from there, they just asked, said, you know, if you'll record this, whatever it takes, we don't care, we'll pay for it. Just get this in recorded form for us. So I took it to some friends of mine. We sat down, recorded the song, and it became the catalyst, basically, that started this whole record. She gave me a gift when she brought me those lyrics, because I can share that with her. And when she brought those lyrics to me, it was something that was not only her testimony, but became my testimony, and became the testimony of so many other people, because it's not just her story, it's all of our stories. We've all made bad decisions, we've all done things, we've wronged God in so many ways, but every single time God met us where we were, He picked us up, He dusted us off, and He set us right back on the path that we needed to be on. I share this message that, you know what, it doesn't matter what you've done, where you've been, no one has wandered so far that the love of Christ cannot reach them. I want them to walk away knowing that they can. I struggled for so many years doubting that I could be all that God had said I was. And knowing the call that He had on my life, knowing the gifts He'd placed in me, I always just somehow just could not see myself being that. And for years I walked in those insecurities, you know, and eventually realizing, you know what, I can't fight this forever. I'm going to have to allow God to be the confidence that I need. And that's what I want people to understand. And when they walk away from my concert or anything that I'm doing, I want them to walk away saying, you know what, I can do it. I really can do this. I can do what God's called me to do. He's equipped me, because if God calls us, He equips us. And that's what I want them to take away.